Do you ever hear someone say something and then in the back of your head an alarm goes off saying, oh my God, that's offensive. But then you stop and say to yourself, wait, that's not offensive at all. Today we're all conditioned to be offended. And even if we aren't offended by something, we feel like we should be. And what kills me though is when people act like by being offended, they're performing a good deed. Wow, I'm like so totally offended right now. Like anyone who isn't is in disgrace. Like come be a socially aware individual like me. Yeah. All it takes is for one person to be offended by a crayon called Spooky Black and say it's implying black people are scary. And bam, suddenly it's a viral story. And once somebody's offended, nobody can question it, because if you do, then suddenly you're Hitler. As a result nowadays, whenever anybody's offended, the discussion immediately ends. It's a classic case of the vocal minority versus the silent majority, where the only argument we hear is the ones who speak. What's funny though is people are only offended by things that directly affect themselves. Like let's say there were two different news stories today. 1,000 civilians bombed in some poor country, whatever, right? Or a local teacher believing that gay families can have negative effects raising a child. Oh, dear me. Well, that headline would go viral. Meanwhile, everyone who gives a shit about 1,000 dying. Who don't even know where that place is? Our priorities are fucked. You know, collectively we bubble wrap our homes and are desensitized to anything except our own little bubble. I can just picture it now. A lady in a restaurant getting offended because a man said she looked beautiful.
How dare that man objectify me? I look beautiful. I am beautiful inside and out. God, what a misogynist.
Meanwhile, she's wearing clothes made by children in a sweatshop, eating the body of some innocent animal, and it gets up in a fit of rage, leaving her car, contributing to climate change and polluting the world. Hey, fuck that guy for calling her beautiful, right? Nowadays, if you even draw attention to any of our differences, you're considered a racist or a sexist. So we all walk around as if we have glasses on that prevents us from noticing race or sex. Hey, we're robots. It's so backwards. Rather than acknowledge our differences and embrace them, we try to pretend they don't exist, which just makes everything worse. For example, there's a difference between men and women. There's a reason babies are raised inside a woman's stomach and that women have breasts that dispense milk. Through evolution, woman's nature is more nurturing. Men, on the other hand, are naturally physically stronger and tend to be more aggressive. That's not sexist, that's just stating a straight up fact. It doesn't make man or woman any less than each other, they are simply different. But to even acknowledge that there's a difference between man and woman these days will have some feminists going berserk. Mad feminist, mad feminist! Speaking of which, feminism is one movement that has gotten really extreme. Nowadays, if a woman has any part of her body exposed, it is no longer sexy, but sexualized. As if to present a woman in any way that's sexually attractive or draws attention to their body is objectifying them. Let's test it out. It's fucking ridiculous. Meanwhile, after they're ranting on Facebook, they go watch Magic Mike and debate which guy had the better abs. Man, it's like we're forgetting that ultimately at the end of the day, we're all just animals that shit and fuck. Like instead we act like our body is a vessel to flower the universe with our existence. Who knows, in the future maybe it'll be racist to even say that multiple races exist. However, there still is one race you can make fun of. Let me just prove it. White people are stupid. Yep, there's no alarm going off in your head, is there? But hey, let's just make sure that alarm's working. Brown people are stupid. White people are stupid! Personally, I have no issues with jokes about white people, as long as we're allowed to joke about every other group of people as well. When you take a step back, our life is honestly so ridiculous. And to say that there's certain things that we're not allowed to joke about is just taking our existence way too seriously. I mean, for fuck's sakes, I'm making sounds with a hole in my face right now. Here's something that's never made any sense to me. Why is it if someone's too skinny, we can make fun of them? But too fat? Bitch, you crossed the line, bro. Like, when you look at our world objectively, there's something a little fucked up with the reality that almost 1 billion people are starving because they don't have enough food. Yet, there's millions of people ready to explode over here because they eat too much food. Yet, if you paint being fat as a negative thing, then suddenly you're the asshole? I've even seen articles showing obese people modeling in lingerie in an attempt to promote them as healthy and normal, completely ignoring the fact that obesity is a disease, although it makes sense that you can't even criticize that because when 2/3 of Americans are overweight, that's not even a loud minority. That's a loud majority. The one thing though I can't wait till it's socially acceptable to joke about, because I honestly think it might be the funniest human invention of all time, is religion. Honestly, the storyline in Game of Thrones sounds more believable to me than the shit in the Bible. And when I watch Game of Thrones, I don't even understand a thing that's happening. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me that if someone believes something they read in an ancient book, no matter how illogical it is, they're justified. Yet if you believe something based on facts and research and it coincides with our current ways, then you have to shut up. We're basically saying you're allowed to have an opinion as long as it's not your own. Fuck that. Wait, did I just censor myself? Fuck me! In 100 years, I think we'll look back at the idea of not being allowed to say certain words in the same way we look back at chastity belts today. Like, I think it's funny if I say cake or cunt, they generate completely different reactions from you. Yet if you were to go back in history and give both words opposite meanings, and then today said, don't be such a cake, give me a piece of that cunt, people will be thinking, oh my god, how dare he say cake? But that cunt does look tasty though. The whole purpose of words is to allow us to express our emotions and communicate what we think and feel. So by denying me the ability to say certain words, you're denying me the ability to express those emotions. And besides, the whole idea of swearing is an old religious belief that some man in the clouds isn't going to approve of your words. And I personally don't believe in any man that sits in judgment and sends people who don't follow his rules to an everlasting furnace. And if somehow that guy did exist, well, he's the world's biggest asshole. And all I have to say to him is fuck you! Swearing reminds me a lot of Harry Potter and how everyone at Hogwarts was so scared to say Voldemort. I mean, take the word nigger for example. Now I know immediately some of you are freaking out saying, oh my god, he said the N-word, he's not black, he doesn't understand his historical significance, somebody shoot him! Ah! No, listen, by denying people the ability to say a certain word, you're just giving it more importance and power. Anything negative that comes from me just simply saying the word isn't in the word itself. That's just ink on paper, the sound of my voice. All the negative connotations are already within you. Obviously, if I use that word to belittle someone, that's not cool. But my point is how the mere mention of a word should never be enough to freak someone out. This fear we have of expressing certain words all goes back to our fear of expressing certain ideas. And unless we lived in a paradise, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be open to new thoughts and ideas. I mean, our world's a disaster right now, so clearly what we call acceptable now isn't working. It's so easy to get offended by the smallest problems that affect us individually. But until we put those into perspective and realize there's much bigger battles out there worth fighting, our world's just never gonna change. Only the words we use to describe our world will. Anyways, that's my rant. If you're offended by this, well, hey, what'd you expect? A rant about political correctness to be politically correct?